crafters, welcome back to my channel Because I'm Crafty. My name is Caitlin and today I'm doing another pattern review, and this is on the Jalie City Coat. So I bought this pattern at the Spring Creative Festival in Toronto, I believe from Distinctive Sewing Supplies, Distinctive Sewing Shop. I will try and find their link down below, but they had a booth there and they had a bunch of patterns for a really good price. And one of the ones I got from there was, again, the Jalie City Coat for, I believe, $12.99. So this is what it looks like. And if you guys follow me on Instagram, you would have already seen this beauty. There's the technical there. Ooh, try to hold it straight for you. Now I have some positive things and some negative things to say about this pattern. So I'm hoping it will be helpful if you have this or you're looking to make this type of coat. I think it's a very classic style coat, and because it comes with 17 sizes for girls and women, it's a very versatile pattern. So I made the, I'm just going to follow my notes so I don't miss anything. I made the size 4, so that is the smallest, I believe, women's size that you can cut. All the ones below that are the girl sizes, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yes. And I made it out of a soft shell fabric, and thank you to Jody on Instagram who helped me or remind me of the name of what this was called. I could not remember for the life of me what this was called. I was like, it's an outerwear fabric with like fleecy soft stuff on the other side. I don't know what it's called. And she was like, is it soft shell? Yes, it's soft shell. So thank you, Jody. Yeah, I got a navy from Fabricland. I actually had been eyeing this for a while. They had this color, the navy, like a plum, a magenta, this really kind of weird green color, and maybe red. I can't remember. But I was looking to make a simple like spring fall coat that I can throw on that's a bit warmer than a rain jacket but still gives me that water protection. And yeah, so I've been eyeing it. It was really expensive. It was like, I think $30-ish a meter. And I was like, hell no, I'm not buying that. So I actually found it in the clearance section, and it was under $10. I'm thinking $6 or $9 a meter, something like that. So I got some of it specifically for this pattern, and I'm really happy that I did. I also got the zipper and my thread from Fabricland. I used a thicker, basically upholstery thread to sew this with, and I used my industrial machine. So this zipper is kind of one of the ones with a fancy pull on it. It is a metal, whoops, it's hard to do on the wrong side. Fancy end on it. And I believe this was a 20-inch zipper, so it doesn't go down all the way. Let's see if I can get far back enough. You can see there, stops here, and then the rest of the coat is there. Maybe I'll put it against the white. So I like that because when I go to sit down in the car or something, it's not restrictive on my legs or hip movement. It actually hits at the perfect spot so I can move, and it's not like I didn't need a two-way zipper. If it was any longer, I would have definitely needed a two-way. This pattern has a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, which I've never sewn a Jalie pattern before, so that may just be like what Jalie has in their pattern line. I don't really like 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I like at least a 1/2 inch, 5/8 depending on the garment. But for a coat, I think it should have more, just in case you do need to do alterations after you kind of make it and feel like you maybe need a little bit more here, a little less there. With 3/8 of an inch, you don't really have much to work with. So if I was to make this again, I would make maybe a size or 2 up and just use a bigger seam allowance, just for more comfort. Now I did consider doing that when I was cutting it out, but I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do what it says and see what happens, and it actually worked out really well. And some of the criticisms I have for this pattern, one is this sheet that it came with. The technicals I don't know why this bothers me so much, but it does. The technicals on the front are correct in the way that the finished garment is. It shows the top stitching, it shows all of the different sections of pieces, but you flip it to the back and you've got this, which you've got a missing yoke over here. There's just no line for it. It doesn't show the correct top stitching. It's got one sleeve line over here and no sleeve line over here. See that kind of like cuff line? Same with over here. I guess it's showing you maybe different options. I'm not really sure what went wrong with the technicals on the back, but if I show you the front again, they're completely different. So why? I don't know. I feel like the perfectionist in me looks at that and I'm like, who printed this? Who gave the go-ahead? I don't know why, but it just bothers me because when you look at the back, you're trying to choose your size and see what, you know, works for you, and then you know, you're looking at the pattern pieces and you can kind of tell, you know, what's happening, and then you look at the technicals and you're like, that doesn't make sense. I don't know, but that bothers me for some reason. The instructions for the pattern were very minimal and it didn't mention anything about serging. So I feel like a pattern, especially a coat pattern, should have a little bit more instructions as to how you're supposed to put it together. So I got it in this bag and it's a giant sheet. So I did actually trace out this pattern for my size. I just highlighted the size that I wanted, so I didn't get confused when I was tracing it. But I'll just show you briefly. So again, it has this sheet inside. The technicals on that are actually correct, which is weird because it's the same sheet as this. So I don't know. But the instructions, it does have a lot of pictures there, but the instructions are kind of listed beside the photos, so it's a bit confusing to read. Like for me, I honestly don't really use pattern instructions. If I do use a pattern, I just sew it how I'm gonna sew it, how I just generally know how garments are put together, and I rarely refer to them. But this one I was looking at because this is the first time I've made it and I just didn't want to mess it up. And you know, my instinct as I was sewing it was how they were saying to, but the instructions are just very minimal and it doesn't say anything about finishing your edges. So I don't know if because pretty much every seam is top stitched, that was their way of holding that inner seam allowance in place, but it doesn't mention anything about serging the edge or even zigzagging the edge or really any finishing whatsoever. So I don't know, but I feel like that's wrong. Like I know a lot of people don't have a serger and that's fine, but I think you should still in your instructions give some sort of direction as to how to finish the inside of the garment rather than just sewing the pieces together. Yeah, I don't know, I just found that odd. Like even some of my vintage patterns say something, some of them don't, but I think especially for a newer pattern that's a coat that's going to be probably a heavily worn item, it should explain that, whether you have a serger or not. Does that make sense? So I don't know. There was just no mention of finishing the edges and I thought that was really weird. Yeah, I think that's all my kind of criticisms with it. I do think also it should have given you the option of how to put in a zipper. The pattern does call for buttons down the front, and I didn't have any buttons at the time while I was making this that I really wanted to use. I had some black ones that maybe I could have used, but I rathered a zipper because I wanted it to be slightly more casual in a way. I don't know, I prefer zippers to buttons. So I didn't do any modifications when I put in the zipper. I simply sandwiched it in while I sewed the facing to the center front, Now, the one thing I'm thinking about going back and doing is, because the actual center front line of this coat is where the hood is basically coming right here, so about an inch in. And so sometimes, I don't know, my shoulders aren't that wide, but it wants to like come out, if that makes sense. There you go. You can kind of see. So if the zipper was in a bit further, it would be flatter at the top. But the reason why I sewed it like this was because once I had all the pieces kind of together, I measured it and I was like, I think this is going to be tight in the hips. Like if I overlap, you know, the center front how it's supposed to be, and you know, the zipper would be hidden, it would have like a placket and stuff, which would have been an added thing that I would have had to like put in. I would have lost that extra allowance in my booty area, the ease. That being said, I have plenty of ease. It's actually perfectly fine, but I don't think it would have been fine had I sewn the zipper in like an inch in further than it is. So the rest of it, like down here, is perfectly fine. I like how it is, but I'm just wondering about tapering it from kind of the bust up. But at the same time, I don't like when my hood comes right to the edge, if that makes sense. So it doesn't bother me too much. It kind of gives you more neck breathing room. If you were to wear a scarf or something, you'd have space. You know, I can zip it up and it's not scratching me, it's not touching me, it's not bothering me. So I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm going to change it or not. It doesn't bother me that much. I feel like it's kind of normal. Like some coats just do that, but I am aware that it's sticking out a little bit. But it's a very minute thing to have to fix. Like it's a detail that no one else would probably really even notice unless I told them. But that's just something I'm noticing. But I mean, it's really not that bad. If anything, I probably wouldn't take it in that whole inch. But I kind of like having that extra just room in there. So yeah. It's got a big facing on the inside and pockets in that kind of princess seam line that comes down the front. And yeah, I top stitched everything. The only thing that's not top stitched is the side seams. Every edge is serged and everything like that. And I chose the hood detail, and it does have a collar detail if you don't want the hood. What else? Yeah, I think that's all I really have to say. Overall, I enjoy the pattern, I enjoy the finished product and the coat. I just feel like the instructions in the pattern are not what they should be. I think it could definitely be improved. And especially the technicals on this sheet really bother me. I don't know why it bothers me so much, but I look at it and I'm like, that's not done. Like there's missing stitch lines. Oh, I need to stop looking at it. I'm gonna like obsess over it. But yeah, so details of this coat, if you didn't see from the technicals. The sleeve is in 3 pieces. There's a back piece, front, and then you've got like this bottom half. Focus. I just turned up the hem like 1 inch or 7/8 ish. There you can kind of see the soft fuzzy side. And if you do look at my top stitching, you can probably see the thicker thread that I used. And thank goodness for my industrial machine, because this was tricky. So it does have a back yoke and a front yoke. And then you've got the seam of the shoulder princess seam line coming down into a pocket right here, which I did have to kind of add a little piece to attach it, and I've tacked it to the facing so it gets pushed inside nice and flat. Got the finished bottom there. You've got your back neck facing too, which I'm thinking about top stitching down, but kind of don't really want that to be seen on the outside, so I'm not sure. And I've tacked that at the shoulder seams, just hand tacked it down. The hood is in 3 pieces. Got your sides and your middle. The hood's actually a very good size. It's very spacious, and that has a kind of 1-inch hem on it as well, as does the bottom. So I actually really like the finished length of it too. It's really nice. And my other justification for making another coat, because I have a lot of coats, is that my mom can actually wear it too. We're really close to the same size. She's a little bit more petite than me, but I think she can get away with wearing it too. So, and she actually has a kind of magenta colored coat that she got from Target when Target was still here in Canada, and it's made out of this it's made out of this soft shell as well, and it's like one of her favorite coats, but it's shorter. So I like that this has a longer length to it. It's like the perfect warm raincoat. Spring, fall, it's gonna be perfect. So overall, I am really happy with it, but like I said, if you take anything away from this video, if you do make this pattern, please just double check your instructions and see if there's anything you can improve on, or think about the seam allowance that they've given you. Maybe cut a bigger size so that you can at least allow for a 1/2-inch seam allowance. I think that that's really helpful when making something like this. But I don't know. I think with my kind of prior sewing knowledge, I was able to make it a much better quality garment than what it said in the instructions. So just think about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with sewing it the way they said, but being that it's a coat and it could be a heavily worn item, especially if you're very active, then I think finishing the inside seams somehow, whether it's, you know, binding them or serging them or zigzagging the edge or whatever it is, I think it makes the garment much better. So just something to think about, but overall it's a very good pattern. I'm very happy with it, and yeah, I'm excited to wear it. Spring better come soon, because this weather out here is like night and day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful in some sort of way. If you're wondering about what I'm currently wearing, I did just film a video doing a bit of a review on half of what I'm wearing, and I'm going to be talking more about the other pieces as well. So I don't know when these are going up in what order, so I'll just try to link as much as I can down below. But today is my filming day, so I'm going to try and get out a bunch today and then edit them in the coming weeks and upload them. So you will see it eventually if you're interested. So I hope you guys have a fabulous week, and I'll see you next time, crafters. Bye!